Welcome to Slayer the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, another edition of My Heavy Thoughts. This is where I take a moment to share with you what's been on my mind. And what I've been thinking about lately is what is it about scary music, the creepy, scary vibe to certain bands that attracts us, that attracts me. I just did a video, 5 creepy, scary album covers, and it's had me thinking about this, like, what is it about me and heavy metal fans in general? Because I mean, let's face it, if I say a couple things here like cemeteries, castles, vampires, monsters, those are all things that a lot of heavy metal fans tend to like, right? Heavy metal fans tend to be into horror movies. They tend to like that certain kind of imagery, dark stuff. But what is it, why are we attracted to that? Well, I guess you could say that it's part of it is human nature. And I mentioned like horror movies, the popularity of horror movies, the popularity of I love true crime drama type TV shows, those sort of documentary style things on true crime, especially if it has an occult theme to it. That really, I'm really into that kind of thing. But I think there's something in our human nature that we're attracted to morbid, kind of scary subjects. And I don't know if it's sort of a grappling with our mortality that it helps us deal with the fact that we are conscious that our time on this earth is limited. We are guaranteed that we are all going to, our time is going to come at some point. So maybe knowing that and watching these sort of scary things, whether it be movies or music that conjures up scary, that gets us scared or makes us feel unsettled, maybe it's something that helps us deal with our our mortality and something inside us. It helps us feel better in some ways about that. I'm going to talk now for me personally. I think the reason why I'm attracted to the darker, scarier type of music, I think some of it has to do with my upbringing, and I'm going to make a separate video on, and I've been meaning to do this for a while. Why did I become a heavy metal fan? Why are we fans of heavy metal? What drew us to it? Was it our upbringing? Was it our environment? I'm going to do a separate video on that because I think that there are a lot of elements and factors that play into that. But when it comes to the scarier, more ominous, creepy type of music, I've always been attracted to that kind of stuff. I'm a doom metal fan. Black Sabbath is one of my big bands. So that's a common theme that runs through a lot of the music that I listen to. And so besides that human nature that we already talked about, I think for me, I was raised Catholic, and there's a lot of scary type of imagery, hellfire and brimstone, and the Catholic teachings. The churches themselves are kind of grand and have a certain mood and vibe to them. And cemeteries, Catholic rites and rituals and things like that. And you're sort of raised to be scared of these mysterious kind of forces and things like that, and evil. And, I mentioned horror movies earlier. I've never been a fan of slasher horror movies, gore and violent type of horror. I'm a big fan of more atmospheric type of horror. I mentioned the cult crime dramas. And so I love like The Exorcist and Suspiria and The Omen and things like that. Hammer horror movies, things that have churches and graveyards in them. Dracula. That's way more my thing than Saw and sort of the more gore slasher horror type of things. And I really think that part of that is again this sort of upbringing, going to church and the vibe and the mood in the church, and being told that this stuff, you're supposed to be scared of this stuff and stay away from this kind of stuff. So stories of like demonic possession. Like I remember being scared to death of the Amityville Horror because here there's it combined a lot of these elements. Plus, everybody lives in a house, right? Everybody has a house, right? And you see the Amityville Horror, and then you're hearing creaks and stuff inside your house, after that in the middle of the night. And who hasn't woken up to some sort of scary sound inside their house at some point? So, I think that my upbringing, had a big part in that. Why I was. Why this type of thing attracts me. And there's also, I think there's this cerebral level to some of the bands that are more scary and have that kind of vibe to them rather than, I've never liked bands that were super obvious. Again, like the sort of the brutal death metal bands that are talking about, running your head over with a a truck or whatever, all this kind of gore and slasher type stuff. It's too obvious to me, and that's why the movies that I tend to be more, you don't see the monster, scary sounds in the distance, forests. I grew up with the woods in my backyard, so when I would sleep at night, we didn't have air conditioning, so in the summer you just left your window open, and the woods in my backyard were just full of sounds. Animals, there were bears back there, there were all kinds of things. So you were always hearing like howling and growling and the cracking. I can hear it in my head right now, the sound of like animals, walking through the woods, branches breaking and stuff like that. And it was pitch black, there was no street lights or anything where I lived. So that kind of like what's out there, I always found really scary, not being able to see what's out there. And so I always liked music that had that sort of ominous vibe that you're not really sure what's going on. It's creepy. It's unsettling. That's always what attracted to me. The song Black Sabbath, for instance, that the way it's so sparse and, the tribal like drums there that Bill Ward's playing. All right. So for me, that's why I think I'm attracted to scary type of music. I'm curious if there's some reason. What is it for you? Are you a person that leans more towards the more gory side of stuff, or are you somebody like me that leans more towards the more subtle, mysterious, what's out there in the dark type of scary music and movies and stuff like that? So let me know down below what you think. What is it that attracts us to this type of scary music? Let me know down below. Let me know what you think of my thoughts. Till we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.